Hello and welcome to the last lab of the Power Apps Basics training. Congratulations on making it this far on the hands-on training. So far, we have learned a lot about Canvas apps, model-driven apps, Dataverse, business process flow, and a lot of the Power Platform. Now, this lab is going to focus on Power Automate. This is not directly Power Apps, but we'll see how the two tools can come together and build an end-to-end process that makes a lot of sense and help organizations to be better on what they do. So without further ado, let's get started. This is going to be pretty fun. Remember that we are going to work with the same scenario about the device ordering app. We have this organization that every 3 years goes to a hardware refresh cycle. Employees go to request the device that they want, and then it goes to an approval process. We have already built the app, the interface where users are going to request these devices, but now we are pending this last part, the approval process. That is what we're going to do for this lab. This is an example of the apps that we have built so far. Remember that we have a screen so they can select the devices they are interested in. And we also have a screen for them to do the actual selection. Once they click on this Submit Device Request button, this is when we want the approval to get triggered. It's really important to keep in mind that we have done this in Power Apps, and we are going to build the workflow for approval in Power Automate. Most of the time, we build solutions using a combination of all the tools in the Power Platform. And this is a great example on how we can bring them together. It is not really common to build something that's going to live just in Power Apps or in Power Automate. And it may be that there are scenarios where you're just going to need just one piece of the tool, but most of the time they are going to come together. When you build an app, most likely you're going to need one or two more flows to support what you're doing with your app. So this is going to be a really great lab where we're going to learn how we can bring those two tools together. And as a result, after this lab, we're going to learn about integrating Power Apps with Power Automate. We're going to create approval request workflows. We're going to learn how to apply conditions in a flow. We have done that in business process flow in the previous lab. We're going to see that now how it works from a cloud flow. And finally, we're going to learn about the Power Platform's Approval Center, because we can not only build approval workflows here, with Power Automate and Power Apps, the whole Power Platform itself has an integrated approval center that can be leveraged for a lot of solutions. Okay, so it's time to switch to our web browser. Here I am in Power Apps. I can go to flows here to create a new flow, or I can go to the waffle icon, click on Power Automate, and that's going to take me to a new screen where I can just start playing around. I can click here on New Flow, or I can go to Power Automate and click on My Flows, and then New Flow. As you can see, they both look pretty similar, so we can build this in either place. This is not a lab for Power Automate or for you to learn in extent what Power Automate does, but there are different ways to get started with a flow. We can go here to New Flow and start from blank or start from a template. Starting from templates is a great idea, just like what we do here. And when we go to create, there are some pre-built templates, pre-built apps for Power Apps that you can start taking a look at and see how they work, what they do, what type of functions they have, all of that, what type of connections, just like what we do here, where we can get started with a couple of things, and that there are some that get built pretty easily without us doing any setup. Power Automate has the same thing. We can go here and browse around the different options for templates. In the homepage of Power Automate, you have a lot of options to go with. Follow up on messages, items related to SharePoint, schedule a reply, related to email. And if I go here to start from template, or if I go to this section here in the left for templates, I can see a lot of different templates. I can see how many times they have been used. One that is really common is saving Power Automate, saving Outlook attachments to OneDrive. So you can see this has been used a lot of time, but by a lot of people. And here you can see the different categories that are available for all the templates. So this is a really good start. If you click on it, you're gonna be requested to start a new connection, just sign into the service, and you're good to go. You can see how these pre-built templates are done, and it actually works pretty cool for you to learn and to start looking around how Power Automate looks. Now remember that for this specific example, what we want is for the approval process to start when our user clicks on the submit button. If I go back here to my slide, this button, when they click it, we want the approval to start. And remember that what this button does in our Canvas app is inserting a row into the Dataverse table that we have. So that is going to be the event that is going to trigger the approval process. It's clicking here, and this click will make a record to go inside the Dataverse device orders table, and then is when we want the approval process to get started. So given that scenario, we need to think about what type of selection we need to do when we come here and click on new flow, because you can see there are different type of flows. Again, this is not the intent of this lab, is not going too deep into Power Automate, but you can see here that we have some options that says business process flow, and we already know what that is. Desktop flows are the ones that are related to robotic tasks that you do on the user interface. Scheduled cloud flows is if you want to schedule something to run each day, each week, or each month. And then instant cloud flows are the ones that we call on demand, for example, whenever we want to do it. And the most important that we're going to work on this lab is the automated cloud flows. The automated cloud flows, they happen whenever an event happens. So remember that we need this approval process to happen whenever a new record is added into the device orders. So this automated cloud flow is going to happen whenever this automated cloud flow needs to be linked to that Dataverse table, so we can the event can be triggered. So for this specific lab, what we're gonna use is go with this automated cloud flow. So I'm just gonna click here, and instantly I'm gonna get a prompt asking me which type of trigger I wanna use. You can see there's a lot of different events. We are focusing on Dataverse for this one, but you can also work with SharePoint items, planner tasks, messages from Teams, messages from Gmail, and an email message that is added to your inbox, among others. In this case, what we're gonna do is go with Dataverse, because we need the action to happen when a row is added, modified, or deleted. So I'm gonna select that. You can also search here Dataverse, and that will give you all the options. So I'm gonna select this one, and then I'm gonna name this flow to new device approval request. Okay, so now I'm gonna click on create. This is gonna take me to the canvas where I can start creating and setting up my flow. The first thing I'm gonna be prompted is to sign in, and as you can see, it was done automatically. Then I just need to wait a couple of seconds, and then I will see these options. Here it's gonna tell me which type of changes do you want to track. We are only caring about when the new record is added. That's the only event that we care. If you would like the flow to trigger whenever it's added or modified, you would have to select this one. Or when you want when a record is deleted, you can use this one. If you want to know if somebody deleted something by mistake, this is a good option to use. For us, for this lab, we care about added. Then table name, the famous device orders table that we have been using since the second lab. And finally, in the scope, we're gonna select organization. Now we're gonna add a new step, and I'm gonna search for approvals. This is gonna give me a lot of options, and as you can see, I can click on the icons here at the top. For example, if I click on this one, it's gonna give me the options that relate only to that. So we care about start and wait for an approval, because if we want to start the approval, wait for somebody to respond, and then update our row, the request of the device, to have an updated status or of either approved or rejected. So I'm gonna click here, and then the approval type, we're gonna select approve reject first to respond. Then I will select what is the title and who is gonna approve. We can also add some details and the link to the item that we want for them to approve. The details that you're gonna add here for a regular flow will depend on whatever information you wanna send to the approver. In this case, what we want to send to the approver is something like new device request for. Now it comes the funny part, because you remember how we selected when a new row is added up here. So when we add a new row, there's a lot of data attached to that row, right? What is the device? What is the price? Because all of that was added by the user when they selected the device to be requested. Now, when we use a step in Power Automate, that generally gives us some data back, and that can be found in the dynamic content area. So if I click here, I'm gonna see everything that this action is giving me back. So you can see I have a lot of information. Price is here, supplier order ID, all the columns that we have been adding since we started are here, plus all the custom tables that we added, and the standard the standard columns that were added by Dataverse by default. You can see here created by, modified by, and a lot of more information. So in this case, we're gonna bring the device name. Okay. And then for the next area, what we want to do is who do we want to assign this to. Remember that in our app, we are asking them to input the approver. It's gonna come automatically from their manager, coming from their profile of Office 365, or they can manually put it as well. And this field is being saved in our database, so we can take advantage of that and use it right here. So I'm gonna select approver here. Okay, and then in the details, we're not gonna put anything for now, but we're gonna skip to the requester. I'm gonna click on show advanced options, and here I'm gonna go to requester, and we have also a column for requested by that we are also using the email from the user to indicate that requested by in the Canvas app. Now in the details, we're gonna add, that will definitely depend on whatever you want to give to the approver. For this one, as an example, we're gonna use a new device has been requested. So device name is gonna go in the second row. Then we're gonna go to the next row, type the $sign. We're gonna go with price. Okay. Now I'm gonna put that in the first row. Actually, that is where it needs to go. Then let's type in department contribution. Remember that we are calculating this in the calculated column that we created in lab number 2. So this is here. If you remember, I had some issues when I was creating this because of the pop-up. So I created a second column. So mine is this one. If you didn't have any issue, you should only see one, which was the department contribution. So select that one. I'm gonna select this one for this. Okay. Then I'm gonna add some comments, and that's what comes from the user when they request this. Okay. Okay, so now we also have some options like enable notifications, enable reassignment. This is in case the approver wants to delegate this to somebody else, if we want to include any file here, if we want to include any link to the item, for example, to the Dataverse table, to the database item, and all of that. For now, we're not going to do any of that. So the approval has been set up just like that, so we can get started with the next step. And remember that this is gonna start and also wait for the approval. So we're not gonna move to the next step. We're gonna move to the next step only after the approver has approved the request. So that's really important to keep in mind. So nothing of the new steps that we're gonna set up in the following actions, it's gonna be done if the approver doesn't approve the request. So I'm gonna go here with a condition because I wanna check what the approver responded. Did they approve or did they reject? So I'm gonna go here, condition, and I'm gonna select an outcome. So remember that each action in Power Automate brings back a lot of data. Now, initially when we were setting up the approval, we only see data from Dataverse because we were only see data that was coming from this step. Now I am in the third step, so I see a lot of data coming from the second step. We have the responses, we have the outcome, the title, a lot of information about what happened in the approval. For this case, what we care about is the outcome. This is what it has if it was approved or rejected. So I'm gonna go with outcome is equal to approve. And then if this is true, what should happen? If this is false, what should happen? That is the logic that we're going after here. Now we're gonna set up the true path. What happens if the approver approves the request? The first thing we wanna do is just update the row. Remember that when it was added, of course it doesn't have an approval status, so we want to add that here. So when I search for update, I'm gonna see different options because we can update data in Excel, SharePoint, different places, but we can go to Dataverse as well. So here I'm gonna select Dataverse and I'm gonna search for update a row. It's gonna tell me which table you wanna update which row you want to update in which table. So here I'm gonna select table name or device orders table, and then row ID. This is really important because if we go to the Dataverse, there's a lot of there's a lot of data here that comes out of that action. And if I search here for ID, yeah, I still see a lot. So the most wise thing that we can do to find what is the right column for that, let's type unique, and then once you find, there's still a lot, but the one that is gonna work for you is the one that says unique here in the description and that has the very same name as the table. So that's the one that we need to select. Keep that in mind. Now let's click here on show advanced options, and what we want to do is just to set the status to approved. This is not the one. We're gonna go to approval status. I'm gonna go to approve, and then on approve date, I'm just gonna take advantage of expressions. So we have here in this dynamic content tab a lot of data that comes from the other steps, but we also have expressions. We can apply a lot of different functions to the data that we have or to create new data. So in this case, we want to know what is the date of the approval. So what I want to do is I will just go and type in UTC now, and that's, if I click OK, that's gonna automatically insert the date of today here. If I go to expression, there are a lot of options that we can take advantage of, and that can be used for a lot of different things. Now we want to also send an email to inform about the outcome. So I'm going to close this update a row action, and I'm going to add a new action right below it. I'm going to search for email, then I'm going to select Office 365 Outlook, and I'm going to go with send an email. First thing, it's going to sign me in. I just have to wait a couple of seconds, and this only happens the very first time I do this. Then in the to, I want to notify to the person that requested this. So I will go ahead and click on add dynamic content. I'm going to search for requested by, and then here in the subject, I'm going to sorry, I'm just yeah, I had a lag there. I need to put in the subject here that the device was approved, so I'm gonna write that here. Okay, your device order has been approved. So now we are going to select we're going to enter the body of the email that we want to send to the person that requested this. So I'm gonna write something like that, something like this. Then I'm gonna add the device name here. We need to inform them about the estimated ship date. Something really important is that now that we have also added a step for update a row, we're gonna, and that's actually most likely a mistake I did in the previous one. Yeah. So if I click here on estimated, if I search estimated ship date, you see how I have two different selections here. Because here the estimated ship date should come from the one that we are actually using, which is the updated row. So, and here, this one I would select the one that comes from when a row was added, because that one won't change. It's really important to always keep in mind which is the one that you are using and which is the one that gets updated. That's really important to keep in mind. And then I'm gonna also add the response summary that comes from the approval outcome. This is gonna give me an automatic summary of the responses that the approver gave, and then I'm gonna save this. Now we have set up properly the true path of our condition here. If this is the first time that you are using approvals in your environment, you're gonna get this warning right here in the right side of the screen. Since I installed this environment just a couple of days ago, I haven't still used it because it's brand new for the labs. So whenever I start a flow the first time, it's gonna take a couple of minutes to run because it's gonna run some backend processes to provision the approvals. Now, before going ahead and test this, let's take a look at this code view. If I click on this little icon right here, it's gonna take me to this other view where I can see how this looks. This is pretty much HTML code because emails are written in that code. So you see here the break lines, here's where the paragraph ends, here we have another breakdown. If I go back to this view, select device name, and then do bold, same for estimated ship date, and I do bold. If I go back to my to this, you see how I got these new strong tags right here. That is for making it bold. We can also use a B, but that's something that gets automatically created here by Power Automate. If I go back here, it shows back to the text that I can format. Okay, so we are good to go. I'm gonna save one more time. And then once it's ready, we can start testing. For that, we can go here to test. Let's select manually and then test.